Hello, everyone, and welcome to the September 1st Friday webinar. Just as a reminder, there's the chat box. If you have any questions to ask, we'll go ahead and take questions at any point. And then I'll have a survey or an evaluation, rather, at the end of the webinar that I'll post in the chat as well for you to take. But for now, I'm going to throw it over to Dawn Albertson-Gass for her First Friday webinar.
Good morning, everyone. Hello, Northwest NWACUHO. So as Andrew said, my name is Dawn Albertson-Gass, and I'm going to be talking to you all today about the power of collaboration between academic first-year programs and student affairs and some of my proudest moments in this relationship. All right. There we go. As I stated, my name is Dawn Albertson-Gass. I use she, her pronouns. I am currently a third-year residential education director at Washington State University over here in Eastside, Washington. Some of the things that I'm hoping you get out of this presentation is, one, to gain insight in how WSU invests in professional staff development through intentional collaborations, how you can apply strategies in creating and sustaining these campus partnerships by establishing shared goals and negotiating responsibilities. Also, I'm going to kind of share with you, like I said, my proudest moments and teach you about a past WSU Pullman academic initiative that I worked on that created a co-curricular experience for the holistic student development through my passion in gamification. And then finally, also going to kind of reflect on my own journey and understanding the impact of those intentional professional developments as my entry-level position within higher ed. And just a little roadmap as well, so you kind of know where we're going. I'm going to start with a general overview of Washington State University Pullman, and then go into a little bit of our WSU Residence Life Department here as well, and kind of the specifics of what the collateral experience entails. After that, I'm going to go specifically into my collateral experience within undergraduate education. I'm going to talk about the different programs that I worked in within that department, such as First Year Focus, Common Reading, and that big program I talked about earlier, which is the Order of the Crimson Key. Following that, going to chat about the challenges and victories in that collaborative setting, and share some of the strategies and challenges that we faced, so hoping that can assist you in the future. And finally, any lessons that I learned through that experience, and just my general experience of professional development here in my position. All right, let's get started. So Washington State University is located in Pullman, Washington. It's a small rural town over in Eastern Washington, right on the border of Idaho. We have about 29,000 students, so the smaller end of the larger institutions. Additionally here, what we practice, our strategic plan for our institution is entitled Drive to 25, and how student affairs has kind of made it for us to be, how we have kind of made it as like a module, how we have decided to implement this is through three kind of practices that we have decided. One of those is being a student-driven student affairs team, and that is really just putting the students at the center of everything that we do and investing in them and making sure that they feel valued and supported throughout this experience here at Washington State University Pullman. Having a seamless learning environment that really allows learning to happen in and outside the classroom, and hoping to like blur those lines a little bit more. And finally, extending into the collaboration between academic and student affairs. So taking that seamless learning and really being able to blur that line by combining our collaboration between student and academic affairs. Okay, and then a little bit about our WSU Residence Life Department. We have about 19 residence halls, 16 residential education directors, serving about 6,000 students. And then specifically what I wanted to focus on is how WSU does their collateral experience. So our collateral experience is essentially an intentional professional development that our department has created, where we spend 5 hours a week in another office within student affairs, so another functional area, if you will. This provides our entry-level professionals professional development and engaging with other departments. Also allows our department to liaison and build that connection with other functional areas and create that collaborative experience. And really one of my supervisors kind of shared this with me, being a residence life specialist. So we become specialists in our positions within residence life, and being able to be a student affairs generalist and understanding what other functional areas do day to day, and being able to just have more awareness of what's going on around our campus outside of our specific unit. Okay, perfect. Going into my specific collateral, so my specific collateral was an undergraduate education, and one of the programs, as I kind of discussed earlier, was in first year focus. Our first year focus is Washington State University Pullman's learning living community, and how we have decided to do learning living communities here. So for our student population, we do about 34,000, and how we do it is that each building is designated a specific faculty member for a specific UCOR classes, and those are your gen ed classes that all of our first year students are taking, whether it's like a history 105, an English 101, and those types of essential courses. So a faculty member of those courses are designated to a hall, and then the residents of that community are pre-enrolled into those courses to be all in the same section. So a little different than faculty and residents, we kind of just intentionally combine the two. What we hope kind of in the philosophy behind that is our high impact practices. So one of them is really increasing the interaction with faculty and peers about substantive matters, being able to not only connect them in the classroom setting, but also some examples that we do are having them dine with the students, as you kind of see in the picture here, having office hours in community areas, being able to bring them to do workshops and just kind of create that good relationship between faculty and the residents by tailoring them or giving them a specific space to educate in. Additionally, hospitality in practice is being able to create those hospitable places where students can show up more fully. So bringing faculty into the student spaces, allowing them to see a little bit more of the student on a more informal setting, bringing them down to, not down to the student level, but bringing them to the students, and being able to talk about classes, or maybe it's just talking about hobbies. So really increasing the interaction with faculty and peers. It also has really allowed for us as hall directors, residential education directors, to open that communication about any potential students of concern that the faculty are seeing that we might be not seeing in our residence halls. So whether that's students who are not attending classes, who have maybe attended classes really well in the beginning, but suddenly are not showing up, really opens the channels for that communication between the residential education directors and our specific faculty to be able to ensure that our students are not getting lost. So that's first year focus. I talked a little bit about bringing them out of the classrooms and into the hall. So as our residence hall directors are accountable for serving our community development plans, we kind of create the plan for how our community will program and function alongside the department's programming model. But with our relationship with faculty, it allows us to kind of include them in on the conversations. It's including them in on what types of bulletin boards to put up. Can we put up syllabus, specific faculty times they're in their office? What are some intentional programs that we can take care of in the first few weeks of school, like a meet and greet? For example, our halls put together like a lawn party where they played games, and the faculty provided extra credit for attendance, but was also able to just share in pizza and fun times. Programming in the hall. So who better to teach about academic success than a faculty, maybe kind of outside the settings of their classroom, and an extension beyond just their studies. So English 101 can be really, really essential for helping to teach about writing skills and things like that that can extend beyond the English 101 classroom and into other classroom academic spaces. And as I kind of mentioned earlier, being able to have that open communication surrounding students of concern, really just opening that communication and having that opportunity to share in that. And that is first year focus. I also want to talk about my experience with common reading, and this is just a lot of like ground the philosophy behind some things that I'm going to dig into a little bit deeper. So the common reading at Washington State University Pullman is really the goal is just to foster community by creating those connections among different stakeholders at the institution through a shared reading and providing the idea, like the value of research, power of ideas in different ways. So providing a novel that can help us understand how technology is going to change in the future. The book that we had chosen, and this is last year's novel, is Ready Player One. So being able oh my God, I'm blinking. Being able to talk a little bit deeper about how this novel can transcend into like reality and how the themes and the stories that it's telling get kind of told throughout our daily lives beyond just the setting of the book itself and kind of extended into any academic conversations. Like I said, how does technology impact us? How does story-driven kind of relate into how the motivation of students in the classroom and outside the classroom setting. So just a fun way to kind of create thought-provoking conversations among varying stakeholders, whether it's students, faculty, residence hall staff, and beyond. And taking a step back here, I wanted to just kind of introduce a little bit about myself for you to understand why kind of the next topic of conversation is so like profound to me and one of my proudest moments as a new professional within residence life and student affairs. So I personally have a very, very big passion for storytelling and specifically storytelling through gaming. So being able to utilize stories as a motivator or as a driving force to really propel engagement, whether it is in my own life and like being curious and seeking different things is how it's shown up in different ways. So here are just some images of me at a very popular gaming convention that happens every year, and just kind of my own passion in the idea of gamification and how it relates to Ready Player One and my relationship with faculty in my next topic. All right, so now we're going to take some time and talk about the Order of the Crimson Key. Just going to switch to this link really quick here. Perfect, thank you. So you can visit this webpage if you wish. You're more than welcome to kind of follow along with me. This is, like I said, my proudest moment currently that I have in kind of my student affairs career is this, the Order of the Crimson Key. The link for those who maybe missed it is commonreading.wsu.edu/Crimson Key. Awesome. Cool. So this is kind of the brainchild of a whole bunch of people. When we picked Ready Player One, it was one of those books. It was the first time we've ever done a novel, just something like different. And we were trying to figure out how we wanted to engage students while utilizing some of the themes in the book. And the team at the time really wanted to kind of create some type of game, being able to do something that would make them physically interact with the environment around them, not just, kind of the thought-provoking conversations that can be had, but really taking some of that learning to varying parts of our campus. So what we created here is the Order of the Crimson Key. It was in its kind of beginning, a mysterious kind of secret organization. We slowly introduced different games and kind of hid puzzles around campus in varying kind of like secret locations. We utilized the toilet stalls in our union space, our main campus, to kind of subtly advertise it with QR codes and kind of talk about joining the Crimson Key and being able to become a member by doing some of the tasks we provided, and talked about how to become a member, you must be clever, insightful, and possess extensive knowledge and dedicated to WSU, and how it's available to all, but only the brave few would be able to follow in the path. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just scroll down here and show you some of the central themes that we kind of came on to decide on. So the 4 arms of the Crimson Key. So when we were first discussing how we wanted to do it, and I will talk a little bit more about later, but the game team is made up of a lot of different people from varying things, and I think it's why I enjoy collaboration so much. It had faculty, it had students, it had myself, a residence life professional, it had someone from Dean of Students, so people from varying sides of campus coming together to wanting to introduce a way for students to engage utilizing our common reading, but also utilizing campus resources. So when we were talking about our expectations or talking about what we wanted students to get out of it, we created these 4 arms, which were essentially kind of different tools they could utilize, or different tasks, I should say, quests that they would go on to kind of gain varying different knowledge. So expanding of the mind really was our great key, which really kind of just tested them to be able to like go to certain common reading events. So it was attending common reading events, which were specific to the book. Were also events that were put on by faculty to highlight their research, whether it was on a specific topic highlighting the technologies, or whether it was on in the specific book. It brings up values such as like LGBTQ plus identities, and being able to utilize the book as a springboard to have those conversations within the Greek community is actually where that one occurred. So pushing them to attend some of the events that we were pushing on through that gray key status. The white key, which is challenging your awareness. This one we actually partnered with our Daily Evergreen, which is our campus newspaper. We hid questions specifically regarding trivia on the book. One, to kind of engage them with media and campus resources, and to kind of drive some traffic to where they could find a ton of information, not just trivia on the book to get a white key, but hopefully just get more engaged with how to be aware of what's going on your campus. So the Daily Evergreen, we put in once a week, kind of hit a question in there regarding the book, and then students would go on and answer it. Okay. Oh, switch it back and forth. There you go. Scroll in. Okay. The black key ended up being one of our most engaging things, in my opinion. So our black key phase is one where we physically went around campus and hid QR codes and riddles, to kind of drive that curiosity, drive that like desire to puzzle solve, and to like explore different places. So each month we kind of picked a theme that we wanted them to explore. I believe the first month we just talked about, navigating campus. In the winter months, as you kind of maybe saw from the first picture, Pullman gets a lot of snow out here. So in January, we actually hosted where everything took place in our libraries, and we kind of hid messages in books, and in kind of like cabinets and things like that for students to find. So really kind of giving them an extra challenge, but also wanting them to explore campus in ways that they never might have before, while also learning resources. There's one where we just focused on academics, so they would visit our Academic Success Career Center. We also had them visit our Counseling and Psychological Services building during midterm season. So just an awareness of not only what resources were available, but where they could find them. And then the gold key was just kind of those extra events that were going on around campus as well. So this one, we kind of just invited campus partners if they felt like it related to the book, and it was something that didn't maybe fit in the other keys that we could just highlight and give extra points for. This gave us a great opportunity to use for like residence life when it came to trying to get attendance at our version of Tunnel of Oppression, which is like a very great social justice program that we put on every year at WSU Pullman. We call it Rooms of Resistance. So being able to kind of push some traffic in this direction, using that gold key to highlight varying campus things, kind of depending on whatever campus partners wanted to utilize. So those kind of became the 4 that we focused the most on and kind of put everything into. If you're wanting specifics on how the game worked, I would be happy to answer questions later, but not wanting to spend too much time on that. Feel free to explore the page and kind of how we utilized points, and kind of varying things like that, along with kind of additional information at the bottom of what each of the keys entailed. So I'm scrolling down here, but that's kind of a quickness of Crimson Key and wanting to talk about the process of being involved with that, and not necessarily the game itself, but also happy if anyone has questions to reach out to me about the game itself, happy to share. So I'm just going to switch back. Perfect. Awesome. So I mentioned the game team earlier and how it was made up of a whole hodgepodge of people. So here is those list of people. As you can see, it's not a huge team, but it's also a very diverse team in the types of functional areas and places of campus that we all came from. So being able to have a small but dedicated and passionate group about wanting to engage with students on a different level in outside of the classroom setting, but also being able to tie in some of the campus setting things. So you can kind of see people from first year programs, people from academic side, people from student affairs. So really this kind of picture is like, this is the team right here that put together kind of that really extensive thing. I didn't mention it earlier, and I had it in my notes too. So the Order of the Crimson Key had about 1,600 participants. So not a small feat by any means. Had a lot of support too. So this is the main game team, but had a lot of support on some admin stuff, some campus partners. This chart really doesn't sum up the kind of extensive relationships that the Order of the Crimson Key kind of pushed to us. Like when I think about logistical things, one of my main components of being on the team was helping track all the points, and the help that I got from my partner, my colleague in the room, Andrew Beck, when it came to assisting with Excel and managing, points for 1,600 people. So 1,600 people had at least one point in our game, and we had at least 100 or so heavily involved with some of the other keys and kind of competing for points. I also scrolled through it quickly now that I'm thinking about it, but the level of engagement that the game reached of being able to have such good prizes. We ended up renting out a whole theater for the premiere of the movie. We had a gala and game night with over 60 students in attendance. Also had dinner at the president's house as a prize for the top 5 winners. So really the kind of far-reachingness of this opportunity that provided me as an entry-level person, and how this chart doesn't really sum up how far-reaching not only on campus, but you can also see from this chart some of the Pullman community partners that we also utilized through such prizes as the Palouse Games, who provided us with gift cards, and there's other communities or local places that also kind of gave us stuff in order to entice and continue that motivation. So being on this team and doing anything collaboratively always provides its challenges. There's always this kind of hesitancy or always this pull for potential buy-in, and being able to really get people excited about what you were trying to do. When we were coming up with it 2 summers ago, it was we were really kind of like, can we do this? Is this something like we have the energy for? And being able to like kind of just at one point it was like, let's do it, we're doing it, and that's it. So being able to create that buy-in was one of the things that we kind of struggled with in the very, very beginning. But once we started taking off and we got a better feel and structure of what we were doing, so that kind of goes to the collaborative program planning of being able to kind of understand where everyone was, kind of the expectations and where we were all coming from, and being able to create that structure of what we were actually hoping to accomplish. It just started out, we wanted to do a game, and then we started putting the structure and those legs to it, and it started to really become something that people be like, no, I can see myself helping with this. This is going to be possible. These are realistic expectations we're putting for ourselves. So being able to create that buy-in and that collaborative thing through that structure. Negotiated responsibilities is something that I kind of adopted from my residence life lens. It was we actually used a specific document with our assistant hall directors and our residential technology assistants to kind of provide that structure of what their position and what their expectations are like within that small team group. So I adopted that strategy when I moved into the game team role with these other colleagues about making sure our expectations are on the same page and recognizing that not everyone was being putting in the same amount of time and different levels of effort. So being able to be conscious of those types of things, high level faculty that were involved are not able to attend every single meeting or necessarily able to go out and hang QR codes up. So really understanding each of our roles and being comfortable with those time commitments and just communication. We utilized email and met at least once a month to kind of create those Black key phases in order to just kind of talk through. We also gave specific things, like specific roles. So I was the point keeper, the point tellier. So being able to know my role and how it played into everything else versus other people who were, more responsible for creating the Black key phase for 1 month. And that was their task. So just recognizing our different levels of commitment and effort and what time that we knew we could put in, as this was not our main positions. Some of the victories. So I already talked about those negotiated roles and the time commitment. So really just an acknowledgement of what that role and commitment, it makes a collaborative relationship so much easier when you know everyone's expectations and you know the effort and time commitment put into it. I knew that this was something that I was going to adore, and I was happy to put more effort into it and bring my knowledge from residence life into it. But some faculty just didn't have that time and couldn't give as much as I could, or other student affairs professionals couldn't give as much time as I did. And it was an understanding and a mutual agreement that that was fine. Frequent communication through email and monthly meetings really, really helped just, again, create that structure and that knowledge and making sure we were all aware it was going on. One of the things that became really great is just utilizing available campus resources. When we first started, we had considered potentially purchasing an app. What were kind of our options out there when it came to creating this gaming experience for our students? And at the end of the day, the best one for us was just kind of using what we already had. And we used CougSync. It's OrgSync. We call it CougSync here. So being able to just, once we figured out we could do this on CougSync, reaching out to those campus partners and being so how does OrgSync work, or how do we, utilize, this particular thing so we didn't have to end up spending any money. And it's actually something that Common Reading is continuing to use to track attendance at their events. So not only did it help us in this specific case for Order of the Crimson Key, but it's also something that's extending into our future usage as we move forward. And finally, the marketing and pricing through donations and campus support. You really realize the investment that a campus and community puts in when you're asking for free stuff. So being able to just have that level of wanting to reach out, taking the initiative to do so, and having the community really respond to it in small ways, whether it was just donating free little gift things here and there, or if it's as big as the Pullman Community Center donating a whole theater and a premiere for us to utilize on the premiere day of Ready Player One. So really having the campus and the community support, huge victory. I added in this picture because it's one of those things you never think I feel like I never realized as a entry-level person that I would get to have dinner at the president's house. So here is us at the president's house with our top 5 winners and my game team. It was a shining moment too. This was the first time I had met the students who I'd been kind of watching go up in the ranks and kind of watching their points, kind of just watching them go through the game and cheering for them, even though I didn't know them. So being able to meet them at such a setting where the president, not only thanked us for our work that the game team did, but really appreciating the students for kind of they're willing to engage in kind of the fun things that we put together for them. So a really shining moment at the president's house for us. So thanks, President Schultz. So some of the things I kind of like talked about the challenges and victories. So I wanted to show you kind of ways that you could potentially bring it to your own institution if it was something that you wanted to do. And a lot of that came from my work that I did with University of South Florida. University of South Florida colleagues created this worksheet that really helped me as a visual learner and as someone who really enjoys concept maps, kind of put into like just visual representation of where and when I could go to places. So I talked earlier about how we figured out that like we could utilize OrgSync. So when I was like, okay, we can utilize OrgSync to track points, to keep track of attendance, to post all of our stuff. Who are the potential partners that we needed to reach out to? Who could really help us? Not only the like the tech people that worked with OrgSync, but student involvement who uses it a lot for a lot of things that they do. So being able to reach out to them and be like, how have you used this? And what are ways that we can also incorporate it? Reaching out, like when we were thinking about doing the white key and putting trivia into the newspaper, I have never put anything in a newspaper before. So what was the process of what that looked like? And what were other ways that we could market some of the things? So reaching out to the residence halls and putting up posters and advertising for some of these events. So really just knowing the goals that you were kind of reaching and seeking, and then being able to take those goals and really think about what campus partners that you have potentially have like available to you. There is a whole campus outside of the residence life department that I feel like I was really, really awoken to when it came to, whether it's just this simple worksheet or when it finally came to the action steps about how we can really develop and reach out to those partners in different ways. So there is that. Okay. To end my presentation, I kind of wanted to pull it back into kind of this recognition as an entry-level professional and being able to do something to the level of what Order of the Crimson Key provided me, which is this incredible learning opportunity that I didn't know that I could do. So in the reflection of that, I just kind of have a whole bunch of slides with some pictures about some successes and how the investment and confidence that my department and my colleagues put into me to do some of these things has garnered me the continued confidence to seek out other opportunities. Okay, so the first one is just my general relationship with academic affairs. This is just a photo of me with the director of first year programs, Karen Weatherman, who has been an incredible support to me, and being able to have someone outside of residence life and in my collateral experience where I spend, around 5 hours a weekend, kind of push me further and build that confidence. It came to a place of developing relationships with faculty outside of, just classroom settings or communicating about students of concern. This is a picture of me at the Living Learning Consortium, or where we come together and just kind of plan for the year. So a conference I didn't even know about, had the opportunity to attend with some colleagues to engage with faculty on a deeper level. Also being able to, put together a huge program that brought in the author of Ready Player One, Ernest Cline, who is now a producer for a very top movie, and being able to meet him, engage with him. You can't see it in this picture, but down the bottom, there's a list of the sponsors. And it's just one of those events where you're just like, it really came together, like people coming together in order to bring him here and being able to like talk and meet with him about the experiences he's providing us as an institution. I've also since then have found my passion in kind of being that bridge between academic and residence or student affairs. I admit I was one of those residence life people who I love residence life and the work that I'm doing, but I wasn't sure if I was a residence life for life person. So through these collateral experience, specifically mine working with academic affairs has shown me my own passion for academic affairs and being able to find focus when I continue my career search. And looking towards academic initiative types positions. These pictures here where I taught my very first class. It was a UNIV 104, which is just our introduction college course. So the first class I actually taught for the university, and my first co-op national conference presentation with those colleagues from University of South Florida at the Academic Initiatives Conference for ACUHO. I have also, just as a person, been able to do my first abroad trip. So I went to Northwest ACUHO in Victoria, British Columbia, kind of with the confidence and support to kind of do my first solo presentation on the regional level. So being able to have that investment and that confidence by your institution, by your colleagues, and not only feel like you're making an impact within your students' lives, within your department, in your institution as well, but also on regional and national levels. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much, Northwest ACUHO. Let me know if you have any questions.
So we'll give just a few minutes here to allow if there's any questions to pop up on the chat, and we'll go ahead and ask those to Dawn if anything pops up.
Yeah.
All right. Now, I'm not really seeing any questions, so we'll go ahead and wrap up for today. I just posted the survey link to go ahead and use for evaluation of this first Friday webinar. If you would take the time to do so, that would be great. But for now, we're going to go ahead and sign off. Thank you for joining us today. And don't forget, next month, we have another First Friday webinar, and we'll see you then. Have a great day.
Happy September.